For this example, we need to take a look at the function that's given and then use inverse operations to find the inverse of each function. The easiest way to do this is to take a look at the right side of our equal sign, look at the variable and see what operations are happening to the variable. For letter A, the only thing that's happening to our variable is we are adding 13. So the original is a plus 13. What we want to do, since there's only one operation, is we just want to undo that operation, and the opposite, the inverse of adding 13, is to subtract 13. So the inverse, which is denoted this way, it looks like f to the negative 1 power. With the x, that is the inverse of function f. That's how we write that. The original was x plus 13. What we need to do is take our variable x and do the opposite of this operation, which is to subtract 13. So using inverse operations, we know that if the original is the function f of x is equal to x plus 13, then its inverse would need to have the opposite or the inverse operation. So the answer to this for the inverse is that f inverse of x is equal to x minus 13. For letter B, we have a new function, g of x. More is happening this time to our variable. Here's our variable x, and there are two operations that are in this problem. If I were to write down in a column all of the operations that are happening to x, if I plugged a number in for x, the first operation that would happen is a subtract 7. After that step, once we plug in a number for x and then subtract 7, then the last operation would be to multiply by that 3. So there are two operations this time, and if there are multiple operations, you can just list those out one by one in the order that you normally would do them. In this one, because of the parentheses, we would subtract 7 first, and then after we did that step, then we'd multiply by 3. If you're going to use inverse operations in order to calculate the inverse of the function, the inverse of function g, we want to take our value for x, and we are going to do these operations using the opposite operation. So the opposite of these two operations would be to add 7 and to divide by 3. But the order is important. If you have more than one operation in the original, list those out vertically like this until they're all listed out all the way to the end, and then you need to undo them from and do the opposite, but do them in the reverse order. So here's the first operation that we would normally do in the original. Here's the next operation. If I'm going to write the inverse using inverse operations to do so, what I need to do is I need to start at the bottom of this list. Whatever the last operation was that you would do in the original, we need to undo that one first. So the first thing we need to do is undo multiplication by 3. So I'm going to take my value of x, and if I undo times 3, the opposite operation or the inverse operation of that would be to divide by 3. And now that I have that one done, then I keep working my way up the list until I get to the top. The next operation I need to undo is a subtract 7, and the opposite of subtracting 7 is an add 7. And you would work your way all the way up to the top of the list until you're done. This one had two operations, so we just needed to undo those from bottom to top after we listed those out, and this is the inverse. This could be written this way, otherwise there is another option. And that's just because dividing by 3 is the same thing as multiplying by 1/3. So either one of these would be acceptable answers. Both of those are the inverse of function g.